Welcome to the 25th Hour podcast, where successful business owners share their strategies on how they get things done every day. I'm your host, Lisa Aprille Malice, and today's guest is the awesome, the amazing, the wonderful Dr. Aprille Trupiano. I am so excited that Aprille was able to spend the time with us today to share very specific strategies that allows her to live this very full, very amazing life. She transforms financial advisors and insurance agents from solopreneurs into CEOs so that they can actually spend more time with their family, play more, and still make more money at the office. She's the creator of the Solopreneur to CEO system and the founder of the L5 Institute for Leadership. Dr. Aprille is also an ambassador at large for the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, and she was just appointed a peace ambassador for the United Nations. She shares so many really actionable ideas with us, and she's fun. She's so much fun. So grab a spot, sit back, listen in, and get ready to transform the way that you think about what goes into your calendar every day. Welcome to today's episode of the 25th Hour podcast. I'm super excited. Aprille, thank you for joining me today.
It is always a treat. You know, I know that you and I are so like-minded that it's always just a treat and a blessing to be able to spend time with you and talk about our industry and what we love about it and what we love about helping them. So I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I'm super excited. I think our biggest challenge today will be not letting this go for like 6 hours. So those of you who are listening in, we are going to try to condense everything nice and short for you and give you the big nuggets. So Aprille, I know that you live a full, abundant life. You spend time, quality and quantity amount of time with your family, plus you have your business and you travel and you are on a board of a nonprofit. Plus you were just, I don't even know what the right word is, appointed or whatever to the peace ambassador for the United Nations. Like there's so much stuff you have going on. How do you get it all done without feeling frazzled and crazy and all over the place?
Honestly, Lisa, there's no real trick to it. But when I tell people how to do it and how I do it and how simple it can be, I think a lot of times there's a feeling of disbelief, like seriously, that's all you got for me. But truthfully, here's how it is for me. I make sure that the most important things for me in my life go in my calendar first. They get my highest priority. Um, I teach what I call the priority quadrant, and I'm not here to teach today, but I teach that and I live it. And in my priority quadrant, what I will share this little snippet is the very first area that needs to be addressed is what I call revenue generating. Obviously you gotta handle what brings in the business, right? What brings in the money. And then that second area, which is just, diagonal across from it, which these are the two highest priority in my life and the two highest priority that I teach my clients to honor, is honoring integrity. And so when it comes to honoring integrity, that means honoring your highest values, honoring the promises that you make to your clients, to your family, to your friends, and to yourself, and to anyone else, and to getting things done that you said you would get done, but also really just living in a way that you feel like your life is in integrity. And my life is only in integrity when I honor my highest values. So yeah, so of course I have to, I have to pay attention to what it is that, gets me to the point where I can, run my business and pay my bills and make sure everybody else on my team gets paid and all that, and provide for the things that, money is just a tool. So provide for the things that we want to have in life. But the truth of it is, before all of that comes the things that are most important. And for me, that is making sure that I put in the time that goes towards my, my humanitarian efforts. But even before that, the time that goes towards my family. Look, when I feel wonky, when I feel like my energy's off, when I feel stress or tension or overwhelm, and I look at my calendar, which by the way, I color code, you probably do too. When I look at my calendar, if I don't see enough of the two areas that show me those two quadrants, I know that that's why, I've spent too much time firefighting or hiding out, doing things that aren't as important, or putting out fires and fighting crises that maybe aren't mine to fight, maybe should have been delegated, or maybe, things should have been done differently so that those crises didn't even arise. Not that you can predict everything in life. And then I circle back around and I focus my attention back where it belongs, which is honoring integrity and revenue generating activities.
I love how you did that idea of honoring integrity, because it'll be different for everyone.
Yeah.
For some people that's family, for other people it's health, for, whatever it may be. But it is the piece that makes you, and getting it in first. So I always think of the big rocks. Pop your big rocks in first, and then you can get the pebbles and the sand and the water, all the rest of that in. Just make sure your big rocks are there first. And
yeah, I tell my clients, I'm like, if you don't, when we start the year, in October, November, we do our strategic planning. This year, some of it got pushed off to December because it was obviously a different year than ever. But I tell them, you got to have a calendar, a 12-month calendar. And while we work on 90-day increments, we work by quarter, we break it down. But first and foremost, what goes in that calendar is what you just said, the things that we honor most, which they are health. I tell them, where are you honoring yourself in honoring your health? Because a lot of times in our industry, that's the last thing people honor. And I tell them all the time, if your health is not in order, you can't take care of anybody. That means yourself, your clients, your family, your team, the people that count on you for a paycheck, the people that count on you to manage their financial futures, the people that count on you to put food on the table. Your health has to go in here. What are you doing to take care of your health? Whatever it is, doesn't have to be going to the gym, it could be anything. What is it? Your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. That has to go in. Sometimes for people, that's that 20 minutes of reflection time in the morning. For some people, it's an hour of quiet time in the morning. For some people, it is going to the gym. The other thing I tell them, where are your vacations? Those go in first, and everything else goes scheduled around it. And I don't just mean 1-2 week vacation a year. I mean at minimum 2 major vacations a year. My preference is if we can get 3. And if we can't get 3, then I want to see 2 major vacations, one with your spouse or your friends or yourself or whatever that is, and one with your family if you have a family and you want to take everyone with you. And then if you're not doing those, if you're not putting 3 and you're only doing the 2, then I want to see 2 to 3 weekend getaways in your calendar. And then let's start putting in everything else.
Yeah. I mean, there's something to be said about a long weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you got to have rest. You have to have rest and regeneration. I'm not saying that, we neglect everything else, but what I do find, and, we've heard this year after year after year after year. And I got to say, it's not just the women who need to hear this, because I have a lot of men who are headed for diabetes and stroke and heart attack because they don't manage the tension. I have a lot of clients who at some point or another have experienced what happens when you don't pay attention to the important relationships in your life. And so by scheduling those long weekends and having that respite and having that regenerating time, you come back stronger and better than ever, and again, it's not going to break the business if you take an extra 4 or 5 days off a year.
Right. As you're speaking, I'm thinking through my calendar and I was like, okay, am I following what April's saying right now? Where can I make some tweaks? And I jotted down a couple ideas, because I may plan long weekends, but I will also let them slide. And so it's putting them in and keeping them in.
Yes. And that's the advantage of having someone like you or me when they're working with us, to hold them accountable, right? Because who holds you accountable if it's not someone like you or me? Personally, I do have mentors, and I do have a business coach who holds me accountable. But I know that we'll put those things aside, because the thing is that, again, we reverse engineer everything around it. It's not that we minimize our goals. It's not that we say, oh, well, if I take 3 vacations this year, then I can't make my 20% year over year profit increase,
Right.
revenue increase. That's not true at all. We just back it out. We reverse engineer it. That means that we got to hustle a little harder, or we have to move a little more strategically, or we have to think differently outside the box and make sure that that business still happens.
Right.
But it can still happen while everything else is going on. Look, because the other thing is this: if we schedule our schedule so tightly, and I'm not a time management expert. This is more your area of expertise than mine. But I have to tell people these things, right? Because when we do the strategic planning, and I said, the other thing that people are missing is white space. There's no white space. They leave no white space in their calendar. That white space could be traveling from one appointment to the next when we are, traveling face to face or moving from town to town because we're meeting with people or we're, going to do the things we need to do. That white space could be time between even virtual appointments or phone calls. I remember that I never used to do that, Lisa. And you know this because I'm sure you've done this. I know everybody who's listening or watching has done this, is that you're sitting in your chair doing the potty dance and you're shaking your legs so hard that you hope nobody sees it from either now we're saying from the camera up or right. Nobody sees it from the table up, like I could be shaking my leg for a half hour hoping that my clients don't know it because I didn't schedule white space just in between appointments for a bio break. Like we schedule everything back. We don't leave any white space that allows for something taking longer than we thought it would, which by the way is most of the time, or those firefighting crises times. There's no white space. Right. And we can get a lot more done when we're a lot more focused, and we become a lot more focused when we don't have as much wiggle room. That's just a fact.
Exactly.
That if you lose 10 pounds and you've got 6 weeks to lose it, you're going to hit the gym harder. You're going to walk a little bit further in your neighborhood or whatever that is. You're going to pass up that dessert way more than if you have 6 months.
Exactly. It's Parkinson's law. The amount of space you have or the amount of time you have is what you will fill. So if you only have 45 minutes, you'll fill 45 minutes. If you have an hour, you'll fill an hour. One of the organizations I belong to, and they meet monthly, start their meetings at 5 after the hour and end them at 5 till. And I am telling you, I love that group. I love that group because one, everyone's on time because they've had that 5-minute buffer to go do whatever they need to do. And I know that I have a 5-minute buffer before my next appointment. And I can schedule my next appointment on the hour because I have that wiggle room. And I think they're genius. They're absolutely genius because what's the difference between 50 minutes and a 60-minute meeting? Nothing. Absolutely. Like I know people right now are listening. They're like, yeah, well, they're thinking, well, 10 minutes. And you're like, no, but there's no difference.
Because the first 5 minutes is spent. Can you hear me? Are you there? Is everyone on? Who's not here? Where's so-and-so? Did we all know? Like where, it's just the first 5 minutes is spent on baloney.
Exactly. People are getting settled and whatever. Yeah. So I love that. All right. So let's look. So one of the things that I'm thinking right now that people are thinking, this sounds great, April and Lisa. Like what you're telling me is schedule in the things that are important to me and get that stuff done. And the world is great. And I can easily do that because you said so. In reality, there's a lot of stuff that people are doing, that people have on their calendars that do not fall into high money making activities and the places of integrity, but that still need to get done. What do you do to make sure, what do you do to make sure that stuff gets done?
Well, listen, the reality of it is this, and I chuckle because I need the reminder myself. And I was just doing a podcast recently and we were talking about this. I use the system DOD, right? Delegate, outsource, or ditch it. Done. Most of what we need to get done right now doesn't need to get done right now. And I have to remind myself. I'll get caught up in responding to emails when what really needs to get done is an executive summary or scheduling meetings or making outreach phone calls or whatever that is, things that I can't delegate or prefer not to delegate because I really want that touch with me. It's either delegate, outsource, or ditch. If it's not in those two quadrants. If it's not in those two quadrants, that's what needs to happen. And you got to be really hard on yourself and you got to be willing to do that. Like I said, I'll be sitting there and I'll be working on something and going, what am I doing? And if I want to do that, that's okay, but I can do it after hours. I can do it when everything else is done. And that's one of the hardest things too, is I personally am not an eat the frog kind of person. I like to start my day with things that rev me up, give me energy. And so a lot of times those are the things that aren't necessarily the things that are revenue generating. They might still be dealing with my clients or dealing with my team or dealing with me, obviously with work, but it's not necessarily like get that executive summary out or make that phone call and follow up like you said you would, or whatever that is, right? The things that I'm kind of like, yeah, I'll do that in the afternoon. But so I'm not necessarily going to eat that frog, but I make sure it gets done during the day. And I have to catch myself not to get caught up in this dreamy sort of, well, I've got all these things to do. Because, by the way, the truth of it is, we were just talking about this as well. The truth of it is, your to-do list should only have 3 major things on it. 3 major things to get done for the day. If you get more than that done, hallelujah, gravy on the or icing on the cupcake, right? But the truth of it is 3 major things. When you find yourself with 172 plus items on your to-do list, you've incorrectly designated or defined it. That's your parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I teach my clients, keep a parking lot. If it's in a notebook, if it's in a journal, if it's on the wall, if it's in your calendar, wherever it is, keep that parking lot. If it's in a text file, keep that parking lot. But every day, you only need to accomplish 3 major things. One of them has to be in the area of revenue generating. One of them has to be in the area of honoring integrity. And then one of them is,
A bonus.
Like it's that simple. And we make it so hard because we think, and again, this is not only for women. Men they do this too. I work with a lot of men in our industry. And I find that we think we're supposed to be superhumans.
Right.
And we're not. And we also think it all needs to get done because someone else set the expectation, or because we set an unrealistic expectation, or because we're just avoiding something else that needs to get done. Truth is, it all doesn't have to get done in one day.
No. And, again, I'm listening to you and I was like, oh my God, you're preaching to the choir. I love this. I love you so much. And I'm thinking through what's on my list for things to do today. And I'm thinking there is stuff on there that can be outsourced. There's definitely things like I can push off to someone else. Tell me more about, you've referenced, the work I do with clients, executive summaries, those things. What do you do, Aprille? Tell us.
Everyone asks me that, including my family. They're like, what do you do? I don't even understand. especially when I have things like, oh yeah, I got my ambassador at large appointment, or I got my peace ambassadorship. Like, what do you do? What does that have to do with anything? What I will tell you in the words of my clients, okay, what I do is I transform financial advisors and insurance agents from solopreneurs into CEOs, so that they can spend more time with family, play more, do more of what they love, and still make money at the office. Clients' words, right? How do I do that? That's my secret. Now, we work a lot. I'll tell you, we work a lot on operational development. We work a lot on team development. We work a lot on leadership development. But I always tell people, if I tell you everything we're going to do, you won't even want to work with me. It's kind of like you go to that personal trainer and you say, I want a beach body by July or June. I got a vacation coming up. And they tell you how many squats and sit-ups and push-ups you're going to do. And you're like, okay, I'll see you in a week. Let me think on that. You know what I mean? Trust me when I tell you, I will make it as pain-free as possible. And I promise you, when it's all said and done, you will be able to spend more time with family, play more, and still make money at the office. So, when you think about it, Lisa, I'm a consultant. I'm an executive coach. I do a lot of consulting, and the executive coaching comes along with it, because as we develop systems and processes and teams and companies and people, we have to develop the leadership of the organization as well, because as the organization grows, leadership has to grow with it. Right. So, if I get serious for a moment, that's what I do. But someone asked me once, it was actually not too long ago. And I was traveling abroad, and I had spoken, and I was in Mexico. I was speaking, and the gentleman, in very broken English, was like, "So I loved your talk. I loved your presentation. I love what you had to say. And tell me though, what is it you really do?" Kind of like you asked me, like, I've heard all these things, all these outcomes, or the things you just talked about, but what do you do? And I kind of gave him the same talk, right? But I said, but I got quiet, and for the first time, I answered in a way that I had never answered in almost 20 years of doing what I do. And I said, I restore families. I help repair relationships. I help restore health. And I really just help people live a better life. I mean, that's what I do. And I got really moved in the moment, and he kind of looked at me like, what?
Yeah.
But when we look at what our clients get out of it, yes, they make more money. Yes, they do. Because I always track numbers, and I want to see the numbers. I want to see the growth. We all get excited about that because, again, money is a tool. What can we do with that money when the money comes in? But we also track the corollary results, and the corollary results are what move my heart. And I absolutely love this industry for that reason, because we share the same values, which are family, health, faith, giving, being philanthropic. And we can't do all of those things if we don't have a healthy business and a healthy person.
Right. Right. So tell me a little bit more about the philanthropic piece as I stumble over that very important word. What are some of the things that you're doing on the nonprofit end?
Oh my goodness. Well, I give my heart, actually. And I've done a lot. I've worked with women in insurance and financial services for years. Did a lot of work with the national mentorship team. I was a team lead on that. And yet my heart has been called. I've served on the board of advisors for an organization called 10 by 3, the number 10 spelled out by 3 spelled out .org, 10by3.org. Founded by a woman who just amazes me, absolutely amazes me, a local woman that I've known for almost 2 decades as well. And she founded this organization where we're eradicating poverty in the world, especially especially regarding women. What we do, and what Teresa does, is we go into countries like Africa, countries in Africa. We go into Bangladesh, Pakistan, and we teach women how to be artisans, own a business. We then buy their product at prosperity wages. Teresa invented and trademarked the prosperity wages, which sometimes, Lisa, paying them for just a few weeks' work, we pay them more than they would typically make in a year in country. So we pay them for those goods. We sell those goods on the market. And so we give them a marketplace. And then we make sure that they go on to establish 3 businesses. So this is the 3 part of the name, is the 3 businesses, and make sure that they're financially independent. And so we're in the process of trademarking, just even the process of how we move them out of poverty. And the beauty of it, what we see, is that they not only lift themselves out of poverty, they lift their families out of poverty, their communities out of poverty, because they hire the people around them, they give them work. Then what they do is they look around. We have seen where these women, like, they look around at their villages and their towns, and they say, what else do we need? And we have helped, they have initiated, and with the organization's help as well, building schools for the kids, building new schools that are safe and clean. We have, built hospitals, built, safer water wells, things like that. And so it's a giving that just keeps giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving. And we have graduated thousands and thousands of women out of poverty, who are no longer outcasts of society, who are no longer begging in the streets, who are no longer wondering how they're going to feed their kids. We meet women who have never, ever learned to sign their own name. And they sign their name to every product that we sell on their behalf. And we give them a sense of dignity on top of it. So, it just changes everything.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm getting all emotional here just listening to you share the story with us.
It's incredible.
And
Yeah,
so and you're able to give your time and your energy in your knowledge here in this organization. And a big part of that is because you figured out how to be deliberate, intentional, and live in integrity with your time.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, the truth of it is, I took a hard look because I was on the board for quite a while, but I always felt like I wasn't doing enough, or I wasn't doing stuff that was really impactful. It was kind of like, yeah, I made the board meetings, and yes, I made the gala, and yes, I made my donations, and yes, I have a monthly giving promise, and yes, I'm there when they need me, and yes, I help with strategic planning when I'm called for it. But I just felt like I wasn't doing enough. And I know that sounds like a lot, but you know how it goes. Like you kind of just
Mhm.
like drop in. It
Right.
wasn't intentional. It was drop in, drop in. And I looked at my calendar, I looked at my schedule, and I thought to myself, what can I delegate? What can I outsource? And what can I ditch? And I ditched some things that maybe made me feel good in the moment, but weren't making an impact. So it was a decision I made of wanting to make more impact, not only on the organization, but the impact on the people that the organization impacts. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So the ripple effect. And again, money is a tool, but and time is a resource, and it's a resource that is not replenishable. And I just felt like I wasn't giving them enough of my time. And so I said, look, use me. Use me. How can you use me? And honestly, we've got a board planning coming up. And that's the question I posed again. I'm like, how can you use me more? Use me more this year. What can what can I do? And it takes, like I said, it just takes being intentional. And it took
Absolutely.
things out that made me
Yeah.
feel good and weren't making a great
Well,
impact.
well, it's like getting rid of the good so that you have room for the great.
Exactly what it was. Exactly what it was. Yes.
And so I want to ask you the question. So as you know, podcast 25th hour. What do you do with your 25th hour? Because you've done a lot of things to create that extra time. What do you like to do with that 25th hour?
Well, you and I have talked. So, and if anybody's heard me for 5 minutes, they know that family is the most important thing in the world to me. I mean, I'm like, I'm Sicilian and Lebanese, so we're tribal. Okay. Like we move in groups of 25, so they say immediate family, like we have Sunday dinners every Sunday. And if it's just us, it's 18 to 20 people. And that really is just us, siblings, spouses, children, and parents and stuff. So that's just us. And so I make time for that. I have 8 nieces and nephews that I absolutely adore. 6 of them are 9 years and down to 4 months. So I take them every weekend, and I am, and then I have my 2 older, my niece and nephew that, I feel so thrilled and delighted with who they've become as young adults, and I'm able to spend time with them. My nephew Max, just started his career, and it gives me the chills. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe my baby's so big, but he's like, grown young man, and so I get to help them. I get to make time in my calendar for them. And when it comes to the kids, it's the little things, Lisa. Like my brother called me, and he just was laughing the other morning. He said, yeah, I just want to let you know that Melania is her name. We call her Panucha. But he's like, yeah, she told me this morning. She goes, Daddy, she's 4.5. She goes, Daddy, don't tell anybody. It's going to be a surprise. But call Aunt Aprille and tell her to pick me up from school today and surprise me. What? He goes, it was the funniest thing ever. He goes, and she told me like 3 times before I got her to school in the parking lot. So I called my sister-in-law, and she's like, oh yeah, she told me too as soon as she woke up. Mommy, call Aunt Aprille and tell her to surprise me and pick me up from school today, right? So, I mean, Lisa, I had the white space. I had the wiggle room.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what I do with my time. I have the wiggle room to make sure everything else is done. And then to make sure that, at 2:30, I'm out the door. I shouldn't probably be saying this on a podcast. It's not recorded for all to know, like, shh. But you know what? It makes my day. It makes my day to look over and see her little 4.5-year-old face and her eyes light up and she's all excited. She comes running at me. There's nothing that can replace that. You can't give me enough money for that. You can't possibly give me enough money for that, right? And it's the same thing for all. Now, in fact, I did do it. I did go surprise her. She's like, I knew you'd be here. And then the other four of them came running at me because they saw me. They all go to the same private school. And of course, we all jumped in my car and we drove them all home, and I mean, it's spending time with family. It's my most favorite thing to do is spending time with the kids.
Yes. Yes. I'm thinking through when we spoke a couple of weeks ago about your, oh my gosh, your, not a jungle gym, your,
the obstacle course.
Thank you. Obstacle course. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I'm so excited about that. Excuse me. I'm so excited about that. And I have to say, the other thing is that when I, it's just spending more time with my mom, who's my best friend. But there are other things that I love, things that honestly, when I got really, really busy for a while there, because business was so good, and I love my business, Lisa, like most of us, right? I know you love your business. Business was so good, and I delight in being busy in my business when it's productive business, like being out speaking, being out presenting and training in person. But my business has been virtual for almost the entire time that I've been in business, again, almost 2 decades. So, I've made time for that so that I can live between here and Italy, that I can be in my offices in Italy, that I can, make time to trek up to my office in Switzerland, to be with my friends in Italy. When I live in Italy, my pace of life is very different. It's very different when I'm spending time in Italy, and I make sure to spend time there every year in a normal, under normal circumstances. And, it's just making sure that life happens in between the doing. And I found that I was getting really, really busy. And like I said, I started having that sense of overwhelm. But when I started taking things out, following my own DOD systematic approach, and when I started honoring the things that were most important, things were still getting done. I was still out speaking, but I was much happier. And when you do delegate things, when you outsource things that I can do. So here's the question, right? Like, I can do those things. And in some cases, I do enjoy them. That's my getting lost in the weeds time, right? Like, I could do them and I'm kind of have fun at it, but I don't need to be doing it. It's not my highest and best use. And when I take those things out and either outsource them or delegate them, it leaves me more time for the highest and best use, which means that I'm more productive, which means that I spend more time on the higher revenue generating activities, which means the revenue comes in, which gives me the flexibility to do the things that I want to do, including the giving when it comes to my time, when it comes to the money. So, it's a ripple effect, right? Did I answer your question?
It absolutely answers the question 1,000%.
I do more of what I love.
Right?
I do more of what I love.
Always, always, always. All right. So as we're closing out here, I know that you have a special offer for those people who are listening in. Please share.
Absolutely. So, you know what? For your guests, Lisa, for anyone who's watching or listening, I have something that actually, just so you guys know, you can't buy and you can't get anywhere else. So I do not work by the hour. You can't hire me by the hour. And working with me directly is something that comes at a premium in my business, just the way it's set up, my business model. And so it's always fun for me when I get to offer this as a gift, which I don't do all the time, but I definitely want to do for you and your guests. So that is a free complimentary session with me. I'm waiving the entire cost of the time with me. And it's called a business breakthrough session. So you will not get someone on my team. I've had people call during the breakthrough session when I did give it away as a gift one time. And he was just like, oh my gosh, is this really you? Like, I thought I was going to get somebody on your team. I'm like, nope, this is something only I do. So like I said, I don't offer it all the time, but I definitely want to offer it for your listeners and your viewers. It's called the Business Breakthrough Session, as I said. And what we'll do is we'll actually spend time looking at what is your best next move. So looking at what's going on in your business and looking at what it is, the one thing that would take you further faster. It's a no sell time with me. It's not a sales call. not a discovery call. This is just time for me to listen and to apply my expertise to look at what's in the way and look at where your possibilities and opportunities are, and to lay out some sort of, step by step, what's next, what can you do to move closer, and then, like I said, move further faster.
That is exceptionally generous of you. Thank you. And we'll put the link that you can get information in the show notes. But thank you, because I do understand your business model very clearly. And so this is a hugely generous gift. So thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Hey, you're welcome. It's my delight. It's another way that I get to give. And it's a way that I get to be in touch with what's going on in our industry and be able to help people, just to be able to help. And it's really simple. The link is getmybbs.com. And yeah, you guys can put it in the link.
Yeah, we'll drop it right in. Awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today, being here with us today, Aprille. You are, as always, over deliver, and I value the time we get to spend. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's a treat. It's a joy, Lisa. You said something, I was preaching to the choir. It's always fun for me to talk with people who get it. It's always much more fun than people like staring in the headlights going, what? So I just get to match your energy, your passion for this industry, your dedication and commitment to this industry. I get to parallel that. So it's been fun.